Yo, brothers and sisters, let me introduce you to a spicy sonority.
Interesting.
Indeed.
The chord's sharpness results from a surprising number of complex intervals. Except for the minor third, all tones form dissonances with one another. A major seventh, a diminished seventh, a diminished fifth, an augmented fifth, and a fourth. Again accumulated. Pretty intense. In fact, this could easily be a chord you'd encounter in the second Viennese school, because back in the day they were definitely after this kind of sonorities. But let me provide a little bit of context to the chord and we'll see that there is an actual tonal background to this. It isn't really an autonomous chord at all, but rather arises from a suspension, resolving into a diminished seventh chord, which then proceeds like a normal dominant. For some reason, this chord gives a very unique vibe, so I decided to gamble with it for a while. When practicing such a special chord, I would start by transposing a brief chord progression like this. But before that, I would check whether there is also a meaningful version in the minor mode. Sounds awesome. So now I would start with the following exercise. First, play the version in major, and right after that, the version in the relative minor. Because that way you get a coherent connection, and if that works, you can then move through the keys systematically, following the circle of fifths. And now let's practice this sonority within a few harmonic standard situations. Here is a small example where the chord appears in a pre-cadential context as predominant that's leading into a cadential 6/4 chord. To me, that thing gives off strong Bobby vibes. You don't say. Well, doesn't it? I'm gonna derive a slightly more extended exercise from a contrapuntal basic framework, and that procedure at first glance may occur a little exotic for some.
If you fall for that, ladies and gentlemen, you're worse than a bunch of nuts in a squirrel tree.
Okay then, if you're familiar with this channel, you've probably seen this kind of thing at least a dozen times. The thing goes under the rather flamboyant name Romanesca. It's a typical Baroque framework built on a chain of suspensions, but I'm going to transform it in 2 more steps. For now, it still sounds like this. This type of thing is also called a diatonic framework, because it only uses either the tones of a major or a minor scale. And what's diatonic can usually be chromaticized, which makes it more complex and enriches the sound. In this case, that leads to brief tonicizations of secondary degrees of F major along the way. Listen. Still not there yet. In the final step, I add thirds above the middle voice. Look what happens now. Wherever the dominant degrees occur, we now get precisely those special chords that result from suspensions. At the end, I replace the cadence with the one shown a minute ago, so this example now sounds less Baroque, but more like something from the Romantic era. However, the newly added cadence at the end now causes the phrase to modulate towards the subdominant, so you could immediately start again in the new key. And of course, you want to add some figuration, don't you? This one is easy to play though, but transposition will challenge you as it is surprisingly difficult to keep track on the chromaticism. And if this feels a little painful, then this is a good sign, cause that's your body telling you that you're actually learning something. Let me give you a brief impression of such an exercise.
This is CBS.
Yo fans, supporters, prospects, veterans, freshers or skeptical bystanders. If you think this channel rocks and you want to throw this guy a beer, check out the Patreon link in my description and get access to all kinds of study materials on improvisation and composition, including that amazing stuff that you can see in this very video. Love goes out to all my loyal patrons. Thanks a lot, and now let's go on. Another harmonic standard situation where you could use this chord voicing is the Monte sequence. Behind that somewhat fancy name is really just a chain of secondary dominants, tonicizing the 4, the 5 and the 6 along a rising chromatic bass line. And in this case you see our beloved sonority on the dominants. If you want to obtain a closed harmonic structure to practice, you could then cadence back to the original key. If I wanted to build a modulating etude from this, I might take a texture like this, which seems a little lazy, but actually sounds quite pleasant. At the end, of course, I would need to adjust the cadence in a way so it doesn't pull me back to the original key. I would do this simply by reusing the cadence from before, but applied to the dominant key. This can then create a potential modulating loop, and let me give you an impression of that. To wrap up, I'm gonna show a short prelude. To wrap up, I'm gonna show a short prelude. To wrap up, I'm gonna show a short prelude. On the one hand, to demonstrate another texture combined with that sonority. On the other hand, to demonstrate how I use these harmonic sequence patterns within a complete composition, essentially to shape harmonic development. The main character of the video, this special chord or sonority, is marked each time it appears. Enjoy listening. Ciao, ciao.